It is your daily dose of morning coffee with your venerable host, James Paul Von Helden. On the docket for today is tax brackets. Okay, I was looking at the lottery because the lottery goes in tonight, and I was sitting there looking at that. And I was sitting there thinking that, you have to, you're going to have to raise the tax brackets, the various tax brackets. As some of you are well aware, I go all across the interstate, I-40, I-75, I-80, I-10, I-64. I've literally been on every interstate, been all over this country, from the littlest towns to the biggest cities. And I can tell you with absolute assurance that, average rent is going to be about $1,000 to $3,000, and average homes are $1 million to $3 million. Now, how it just happened to work out that way, I don't know, but it did. So that's kind of interesting. Still, that's pretty much, a good ballpark. All right, so what we're going to have to do then, President Trump, hopefully you will get this. Hopefully someone will make sure you see this. What we need to do then, we need to raise the tax brackets in the country, because it's like that poor woman that only got $786,000 after winning the lottery. She won the lottery and didn't even get $1 million. Why? Because she was knocked into the highest tax bracket, they said, simply for winning the lottery, and thus ended up losing about 90% of her winnings. Okay, so that needs to be fixed. And it doesn't just need to be fixed for the lottery. It needs to be fixed because when your average rent out there is going to be $1,000 a month to $3,000 a month, and your average home purchase out there is going to be $1 million to $3 million, obviously, in order to just do those things, you're going to be flung into a higher tax bracket, and so therefore you won't be able to afford the most rudimentary of things, such as a home, such as rent. And so those things all got to be, so those tax brackets are going to have to be adjusted to compensate for the increase in all of the prices of goods and services. Because people are going to have to make more money in order to just do the basic things. But if they do get more money, they're going to be flung into a higher tax bracket, which means more money will be taken away from them, which means they won't be able to afford anything any damn way. So, we've got to fix this, President Trump. This must be fixed. These tax brackets must be elevated to compensate for the increase in the overall goods, services, and everything else that's going on. Now, I am certainly not an egghead. I am certainly not a math whiz. In fact, I suck at math, admittedly. So we're going to have to get some of Elon's people on this, but it needs to be done. Because otherwise, everyone is just going to be taxed into oblivion, and nobody will be able to get an apartment, nobody will be able to get a house. Literally. Literally, no one will be able to get an apartment or a house because they'll literally be taxed too high to be able to afford it. You get what I'm saying? I hope y'all are getting this, because it hurts my brain too, admittedly. But the thing of it is that this is going to have to be fixed. This is a major problem, and it's got to be fixed. And these tax brackets haven't probably been changed for a long, long time. See, these tax brackets need to be changed to compensate for cost of inflation and shit, and they never have, not to my knowledge. To my knowledge, they've never been increased. So we need to fix that. We need to fix these, get them up there a bit so the people can afford to live, can afford to get an apartment, can afford to get a house, can afford to get the groceries and things that they need. Because as long as these tax brackets exist, the government is just going to tax the snot out of everybody, and we're not going to be able to get the basic things that we need to survive. And it's going to have to be fixed. This needs to be fixed immediately. So President Trump, please, I hope you see this, and I hope you address this situation, because this is a serious matter. This is an emergency, and it needs to be dealt with immediately. All right. So anyway, that's my ramble for the day, my morning coffee for the day, and your daily dose of conservative talk right here on TikTok. So hopefully we can get President Trump on this and Elon's people on this and get this matter resolved, because people have to be able to live. Okay, we have to be able to live, President Trump, and we're not going to be able to do it if we're being taxed to death. Okay, we're just not. Those ceilings, those tax brackets must be increased. They must be. I don't think they've been increased since I was a boy. Now, I could be wrong on that, but I don't know, because I've never heard of it being done. All right, anyway, that's going to do it for me. You have a wonderful day, folks, and a better tomorrow. Bye.